Welcome to What's the Point? A weekly discussion of truth, realities, challenges, theological and philosophical views, national policies, and international concerns. Welcome to What's the Point? Today, our topic will be the holistic approach to singleness. So, to start off, our first question would be, why does being single occasionally have a negative stigma? Dad, if you want to maybe start with that.
Well, maybe because the concept of society is that man has to have a woman in marriage or in a family, and if that is not the case, it seems like it's not complete. That is, of course, more like a stereotype or like a cultural nuances, maybe. But it did not be that. But that because God created man and woman, the presumption of society is that they have to be together and they have to build a family. So I think that's in that sense where when you are not married, single, so the stigma then is coming out because why are you not married? So something like that. I think it's coming from the fact that marriage seemed to be the norm, family seemed to be the norm.
Right. What do you think about that, Josh?
Well, I think also too, maybe the people around, and as far as singleness, and as far as being in a relationship, it's the aspect of like I was saying, it's not the norm around you, or like at Baylor, they have this thing called Ring by Spring, right? Where it's like, there's pressure of having a wife before you graduate, and so just different things like that kind of weigh in on you because of maybe just norms around you, or there's different like nuances that put pressure on you, like even maybe social media, or just different things that you're seeing in comparison with other people, and feeling that pressure of being in a relationship. Because the reality is that, like, I feel like for most people, we have the longing inside of us to be with somebody, especially as as far as being single, like especially like if you haven't been in a relationship in a long time, or this and that, starts to weigh in on you. So
Yeah, and I think it also kind of goes back to, like, in the Bible, they had a lot of stories there where they wanted their daughter or their to have a husband already, to have a family. So even back then, it seems like there was already a big pressure on that aspect of.
Also because culturally, whatever culture you are, or even whatever religion you are, the context of having children is always in the context of a family. There is no religion or culture that propagates the belief of reproduction without family. I
Right.
still have to know that. So that's I think where the stigma comes from, because I still have to know of a religion or a culture that says, well, you can have many children without getting married.
Yeah.
So I think that's really where the nuances come from.
Right. So then what should we be doing while we wait for God's perfect timing, for the perfect, or there's nobody that's quote unquote perfect, but for God's person that he has in mind for us, what should we be doing during this time, that if you're waiting?
Well, I have always believed that there will be a person for you if you are really called to be married. So, well, you just have to wait. You just have to prepare yourself for that person. So, what you think should be the ideal man or woman you are for that time, then you have to prepare yourself, because what if that woman comes like next month? If you're a man, you will not begin preparing yourself when she is already there. So it's always good to prepare yourself. I'm talking about in terms of, say, stability of income, maybe. in terms of trying to build up your finances, your resource base, in terms of trying to prepare your educational background, in terms of trying to prepare your emotional stability. So you will be entering into a relationship, and if you're not prepared, it might technically it can actually destroy you. We know that there are people that are not up for a relationship, that instead of them being like edified by a relationship, they have been destroyed by a relationship.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
what do you?
I think for me too, just like understanding different things. As far as like, being in a relationship, it's this aspect of like if you're being honest with ourselves, like it's gonna be a challenge, but like no matter what comes our way, like I don't think that maybe there's things in us that still need some work. So it's really just like saying like being honest and being like Holy Spirit, like there's some parts in me that I need to work on, but just guide me if you want me to be in a relationship. So it's just so what I'm learning is this aspect of just like submission to the Holy Spirit by saying like, hey, um, I'm not gonna be like perfect. I'm not gonna be fully there. That's why I need your help. So I need you to guide me in this time to help me want to serve. So what I've realized with being single and like this aspect of like being in a relationship is you have to be willing to serve the person, your significant other. So if you're not willing to serve them, then it becomes tough, and it might not last because that's the aspect of it is, if I want to say like um, what marriage means, because in the end of the day, as Christians, like the end goal is getting married, right? So if you look at it in the Bible, it says like wives submit to your husbands, right? And then husbands love your wife the way Jesus loved the church,
Mm,
right?
mhm.
And then how did Jesus love the church? He loved the church by dying for them. And I want to say something real quick that my friend said that it stood out to me still like right now. Right now it's kind of like, pretty insane. He was like, a lot of people like, you know, are ready to die to their wives, like take the bullet, but they're not ready to die to themselves for their wives, which
Wow.
means that like they're easily they can take a bullet kind of any day, but that's almost easier because a bullet's kind of instantaneous, doesn't really hurt. That's easier than dying to yourself or your wife, meaning getting rid of these secret sins, making sure that you're selfless. That's almost harder. Putting her needs for you, it's almost harder than taking the bullet. So
Yeah, and I think another idea I kind of thought of just now too is like if you a lot of people think, "Oh, I need another person so I can be happy," or "I need another person so I can be complete." Which first people should not be looking to another person to complete them. They should be completed by God. And also it's kind of like if you don't know how to love yourself, or you don't know um how to be okay by yourself, then it's going to be very too much of a pressure when you have that significant other that you think that they are the sole source of your happiness, or source of everything. That's a lot of pressure for a person. Only God can fill those shoes. So some people don't realize that. They think that, oh, I need to be um I need to be married, or I need to be in a relationship, and then I'll be happy, which it should be you should be happy first, so that when you're in a relationship, if you're already happy, the person would continue to be around you, enjoy being in your company.
I think if you look at the Bible, I think well, you say singleness, but singlehood, for that matter, even makes it more biblical, like brotherhood, something like that. So I think singlehood is a calling. And the Apostle Paul said that uh, if he were to choose, he wanted to be single so he can devote more time to God. But if you are not prepared for that, better to be married. So I think if you don't have the specific calling to really go for a full time with all your attention all on God and His Word, and you cannot especially do that conceivably on your own, then I think you are not called for singlehood. there will be a partner one day that you would need, because even Adam, after God created him and put him in the Garden of Eden, he was lonely, and he was telling God,
Mm.
Lord, I really need a partner. I need a helpmate, not a helper, by the way, a helpmate. So there is one that's a huge of a difference,
A helper
because
and a
a
helpmate.
helpmate, yeah, a helper is like, subordinate. A helpmate is co-equal.
Wow.
So I think a person knows that he needs one, whether man or woman. If it is the woman, he feels he's not complete. So you were saying a while ago, Karen, that there is that longing that I think I'm not complete without another one. If the woman wants somebody to lean on, somebody stronger than her maybe to lead, so, or she needs a partner to work with. The man needs someone, uh, to also work with and pursue his dreams. So in that sense, I think you know that if that you have such a longing, then I don't think God is calling you for single blessedness.
Mm. Yeah. And so, how can we avoid different temptations during this time of waiting, such as, physical, mental, emotional temptations? Um, how do you think we can avoid those things?
Well, the advice always has been really to keep yourself busy with other
Mhm.
things,
Yeah.
so that it's not a good idea to keep on waiting for that person and be fixated to that person. So if you have other alternative activities to do, like sports, like some hobbies, business, activities, ministry, to keep yourself busy, so that and also to make yourself more prepared for a
Mhm.
relationship, so that you are more like, you also mature in the other aspects. Then you become even more ready, because you're preparing
Mhm.
yourself as you expose yourself to other aspects, sports, business, studies, social or community work, ministry. So you are now also honing yourself to be a more rounded person before this person comes to you, instead of just really every single day saying to the Lord, Lord, why do I not have a partner? And you keep on longing and being fixated to that, it can emotionally bring you down, in my
Mhm.
view.
What do you think, Josh, on the temptation aspect of things?
Well, I think that the temptation aspect of it is, a big part. Like we're gonna be tempted kind of no matter what, but if we're able to let go of those, like I guess, secret sins that I was talking about before, like it makes it easier because it takes away from the pitfalls. Like for example, for guys, like if you get rid of the lust issue that we so often have, like it gets rid of comparison, because then you're not gonna compare. You're gonna put pressure on your wife to be something that they're not, and then also um, in general, like you don't want that secret sin, because eventually your wife's probably gonna find out one day, and it's like not gonna be a good conversation, and it's gonna be something that can stick with her for a long time. Unforgiveness. So
Mhm.
these things, are here for Christ to say, like, hey, it's not only here for me, but it's here to impact others around you.
Mhm.
It's here for a lasting marriage to happen. So those different temptations and like insecurities, like work on them as a single person, so that you don't bring it to marriage life. I think again, Robert Madu was saying that this aspect of relationship, it's like there's no married people problems, there's only single people problems, and then you bring it to a marriage.
Wow.
So the less
Yeah,
that you have, because you're working on it so much through Christ, the less you'll bring to a marriage.
yeah. In fact, if you if that's part of the training process, because if you cannot handle yourself uh, with the issues of temptation, when you are single, where there are less complications,
Mm.
that would even be more serious if you cannot handle that when you already have a partner, that can create complications. So that's the reason why I have some friends who are saying that, I cannot, well, these are not even Christian friends. I don't want to be married because I don't think I can be faithful to my wife.
Mm.
Mm.
So I rather not until uh, I am all bored, or no, not bored is the right word. I'm fed up with all this
With the drama of what
the
doing.
drama of life and all this worldliness that we have before they settle down. And there is this concept, not in the Christian world, but the concept like, you know, get yourself all the experience and be fed up before settling down. I mean, this is a man thinking, especially in the Philippines. There is that kind of man thinking among the rich people, where you have all the money, you can do whatever you want, better you don't have a wife. Now, when you are now ready to forego with all those and settle down, then get married.
Mm.
Because a lot of people, if they have money,
Yeah,
they can get really what they want.
yeah.
But then, yeah, go ahead.
And then that's also true of the other of women. I have a lot of friends, so I have to go around, I have to tour or whatever. So after I finish all this, and I have to decide to stay home and be more of a homebody. I'm already fed up, or I've already done what I wanted to do on my own.
Right, because some people
Yeah,
have certain things that they want to do um, by themselves, or that they feel like a partner will hinder them from doing. Like, for
yes,
example, for women, if you enjoy going out and partying with your friends till
yeah,
like whatever time, which girls do that, go out and hang out with each other. They don't all the way till late.
yeah.
Well, if you are married, that would not be as and your husband is not out with you hanging out, then sometimes if you do that every day or every weekend, then that would cause a problem with your spouse if you're always out every single day, or late, like how you were when you were single, because it was different then.
Oh,
You had no, you did not have to account to anybody.
true. So that's the reason also, Josh, that sometimes a lot of men and women really go past 30 before they get married because they still wanted to do all the things they wanted to do, which they thought they cannot do anymore when they're married.
Part of the reason why for me, like, I want to, be married kind of before I'm 30 is because I feel like God's blessed me with, like, I've experienced a lot of things in my life already. That's nice. And like I said, you're saying, like, the longing for a person. That's something that for me hasn't been there. And I'm a pretty independent person until recently, where it's like I can't even, like, I feel like I can't even, like, function, right? Like, without having that significant other or whatnot, like, which is a weird feeling for me because before it used to be like, just joke, all the time. But now it's like, because I called you that, now it's like getting serious, where it's like, you know, um, just at a different level of, like, kind of like you're saying, like, the need for the other person that I haven't really kind of felt before in this way. So, but also I want kids, so it'd be nice to, because if I pass 30, I heard this thing that past 30 girls, it's already, like, considered, like, what is it, like a geriatric, which means that it's pretty late. And so
Well, that
that's
would be
past 30.
40. Well, yeah, I guess
And
it
30,
starts
30, 30
30.
is
past 30, right? So it's already called
30.
geriatric. But for me, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, I want that way I can see my grandkids, and I can enjoy that process. And because being married, part of your responsibility in this life as a Christian, if you have kids, like, you want to develop and have kids that are strong in the faith.
Mhm.
That way, that's your ministry as well. So I think that'd be really cool to have that, and see that and come to fruition. So
Yeah, and I think to some people, like for example, for me, like I don't have kids yet because I feel like I like to enjoy my time with my husband without having children, because children complicate things a lot. Like, you obviously think about the future and grandkids and things like that, but if the like your future wife has not experienced all the um all the things, like for example for women too, like that they wanted to do, like they wanted to travel, but then you get married and then you have kids right away, you never really got to hang out with your husband because you became a mom right away. Does that make sense?
True.
Because I see that a lot with a lot of my friends now who got married early when they're say for example they got married early and they had a kid right away, like they joined, their spouse was in the army and they had a child right away, and they were very resentful of like just what happened. I mean, they loved their child, there's no doubt, but they were very resentful that they felt like they didn't get to enjoy certain things. It also depends, I guess, on the partner that God has for you. Because if not, you know, I know some people that they had a child pretty early, they got married early, so they have a child early, and it happens that wife ends up having to take care of the child more, like stays at home and all that, which they feel like a lot of women feel that they have more to give up because they have to first of all carry the
Right.
child for 9 months and all that. So sometimes that's why women don't want to get married right away too, because of the pressure of being a mom, and they don't want to be a mom yet. So if you're not married and you try
Right.
to avoid all that, then you don't have to be a mom yet. So I think that's
Right.
another.
Yeah, it's different when you also like it's a different experience. So if you're doing it just with your husband, just the two of you, because you're like boyfriends, girlfriends, and a different thing when you have children
Mm-hmm.
in
So it's
terms of
also
what.
what, like on both ways, it's pretty good. But um okay, so then I guess so we've talked about why people how we can try to avoid temptations. Obviously, we have to ask God to help us with that. But um I've read somewhere that and that you kind of mentioned it too, as singlehood or singleness being a calling. So how can it be, or why can singlehood be considered a calling or a gift? Like what do you think? Some people say that that's a gift to be single, or not, you know, at least for the moment.
As I've said, the Apostle Paul was saying that if given a chance, and he did, he chose to be single, by the way, because he
Mhm.
decided to dedicate himself fully to the ministry without the pressure of children and a wife. And I think he cannot do all the things he did, writing, being imprisoned, and did all that if he was married. So I think he had really a calling to be single for that matter. Now, but he said that if you cannot control your passion, for the case in the case of men, more like their lustful desires. I think that's more the interpretation of the text. Then it's better to be married than to burn in lustful desires. I mean, that's as candid as Paul was
Mhm.
writing in, I think, in Corinthians, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And what do you think on that, Josh? Do you think that singlehood is a gift, and if so, why?
I think that it's a gift as well, because then like it gives you that time to prepare, it gives you the time to just like I said, work on yourself as well. But it's a gift because like they put us into perspective. In my opinion, like a take that I have is like, being single, like puts you into perspective, and it makes it that much sweeter when you get your significant other. If that's God's will for you, because then, especially when you live faithfully and righteously through Christ and try your best to really still out as a Christian, because then it's this aspect of like, oh wow, like I can't wait to be faithful to God with this other person. So you
Mm-hmm.
like are excited for what God's gonna do, especially if both parties are that way, where it's like both love God and this and that. And so the singleness aspect of it is cool, especially when you're prepared, because you're excited to bring, you know, the the training that you had. It's almost like, as a single person, it's like you're training for the NBA, and
Mm-hmm.
finally, so I have Steph Curry in the back right here. So like you're training for the NBA, but then all of a sudden, like, finally you get put into the draft, and you're in a team. So it's that similar aspect of like, if you really prepare like you would for the NBA, like you'd be so excited to be on a team because you're confident that you can contribute the right way. You're confident that you can,
Mm,
you know, stay faithful and do these things and serve, because you know a basketball player at the end of the day serves the team. Same thing with you being a husband or a wife, is that you're here to serve your spouse. So if you know you're diligently prepared, like you, it's, you know, it's an exciting time. So I think that that's the way to go, is diligently prepare like you would for a sports team or for the NBA. So
yeah. I think that's pretty good too, because I know a lot of people, like during when they're single, or when they're still waiting for their future partner, that they are able to actually, like you said, Josh, work on themselves and get those things, get certain things they want to do out of the way, like whether it be, oh, I want to travel to a um I want to travel here by myself, like solo travel. A lot of people like to do that. So if they're wanting to solo travel, they can do that while they're single, because it's very different when you have to travel with somebody, because you also have to think about their schedule. It's just different when there's another person involved, or hanging out with their friends as much as they would, because sometimes you don't really get to hang out with them as much when you're in a relationship or when you're married. So I think that, like you guys said, there's a lot of things that people can work on within themselves before or while they're waiting. What is God's purpose for keeping people single for a very long time, or even forever?
Well, I have two answers to that. For a very long time, is to prepare that person for the right partner. That's the only reason.
Mm-hmm.
God is preparing both, either you or the other partner is not prepared yet. And since the two of you are the best for each other, God is preparing both of you. Either one is delayed, either you or the other. So if you will wait for that and not opt for a second best, then
Mm,
it's good to wait. But if you are really single for good, I think it's because God wanted you to do something greater or something more dedicated in the ministry that you cannot otherwise do if you're married.
wow. Okay. And what do you think? What do you think, Josh? Why do you think God keeps people single for a long time, or even forever?
I think it's the same thing of like, it depends on the person, but also like the contentment aspect of it. Like some people are just content to, you know, be single, and that's, you know, they don't get impacted by it. And it's literally just to not get distracted from Christ. Christ knows each heart, and Christ knows what's best for you.
Mm-hmm.
So also some people, like, that's a gift of being single for, you know, their whole life, because that's a way for Christ to not get them distracted off of the call that he has for them, right? Because the reality is, like, you know, a significant other is very distracting if their life is not focused on like Jesus, you know. And so that's the idea is, um God is here, like, every single time to protect us from pitfalls in life and different things, even though we don't initially feel that we don't want it. So that's, I think, an encouraging thing, that no matter what, God is here to protect. If it doesn't happen or hasn't happened yet, and you've been faithful and diligent, it's just because He's protecting you from something that you can't see yet, right? Because the God that we have, it's like He's so much steps ahead, but it's literally here to guide us. And so that's why for me, I have to catch myself when I get mad at God, be like, hey, like, why is it not here? Your girl's not here. I have to remind myself, like, hey, He's here to protect you from yourself, but also from different pressures around you. Because you don't know, for example, timing can be off, where it's like, okay, you know, you get this girl, right? But in reality, if you get this girl too soon, you're supposed to go on a date to Austin, and then you get in a fatal car crash. Like those things, like, you cannot
Mm-hmm.
see, right?
Yeah.
But God sees like the implications of it. So even those things, that's very like, you didn't do anything wrong because you was going on a date and then you're dead. So it's literally like, even those things that are good in nature,
Mm-hmm.
God's protecting because He knows that timing, right? So
Right.
or you're not done yet with your schooling, and that having a girl might distract you uh, not to finish it, or there's a
Mhm.
ministry assignment that God wanted you to achieve, and giving this girl might, I'm not blaming it on the girl, but you're not being able to handle this girl if you're a man. It's your fault, not the girl's fault, of course. But if you're not being able to handle her or your emotions towards her, that you can destroy and ruin what otherwise was supposed to be like a preparation for your academic performance or your ministry, because now you get to be so engrossed and with being with her, and that you know how it is, just in a relationship. There is more time involved in the thinking than in the going out.
Mm,
Yeah, I
mhm.
mean,
Meaning, if you spend 3 hours outside, you spend more than 3 hours thinking about her
mm,
per day,
Oh.
or him. What is she doing? When is she with? Uh,
mm.
or if the
What's gonna
lady
happen
said,
after? Is
yeah,
it gonna be
yeah,
fun? Is she gonna have a good time?
yeah,
Am I gonna have a good
yeah,
time? You spent like
or
2 days thinking
or
about that for a 2 hour
yeah,
date.
Makes sense.
yeah, or the girl saying, "Oh, he's not calling me. Is he with somebody else? What is he doing? What is he now?" All those concerns that otherwise is not there when you don't have a relationship. Now
Mm,
that it eats up your time.
And then
It
it
right.
eats
eats
up
up,
your
like
time.
Dad said, it eats up your
Yeah.
time of like you could be spending that with God, you could be spending
Yeah,
that with your friends, and when
That's
you,
what
yeah,
I've
um,
realized too.
yeah,
Like not idolize, because that's very easy to idolize a girl or prospective girl or your girlfriend or your wife, because in that aspect, if we're being honest with ourselves, that's kind of idolizing the other
mhm,
person if you spend
yeah,
that much time, um if it's unhealthy anymore, like that much time thinking about that person more than God, or thinking about that person so much that you get jealous, right? Because
yeah.
that's
yeah,
Because obviously, if you're thinking about them, like, okay, they told you they're driving home from Dallas. Okay, well, obviously, it's normal to be concerned. Like, did you make it home? Are you safe?
yeah,
But if you're
yeah,
like, are they really driving home from Dallas, or did they stop somewhere, or did they do this, or like
yeah,
that would be too much. But if you're just thinking,
yeah.
did she make it home to make sure that she wasn't hurt, or or has she eaten? That means she wasn't hungry. But if you're thinking of like jumping into cliffs and conclusions, you're wasting your time in your head, and then you're putting anxiety on yourself to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, but that's hard to control, because that's in fact where a lot of counseling counseling for the young people is coming in, because these thoughts, just these jealous thoughts, these unfounded fears, this uh, not only is the cause of quarrel, it's a waste of time really, because like she or he left your house. The girlfriend thought so he must be home by 1 hour and a half. Then you call. It is 3 hours. He is not there yet. Of course, if you're you're a very mature person, say, well, maybe he stopped for meals, maybe met a friend. But if you're the jealous type, you think, oh, maybe she went to another girl.
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe she's with
And
somebody
it's
else. Maybe she's
duality too,
drinking.
because
And this thing that gets into your head all the time eats up all your time, and it really destroys
It
you.
eats up your time, and it also causes problems. I see memes all the time where it says like the guy goes home, right? So he was hanging out with a girl, the guy goes home, and then he falls asleep. So he doesn't get to reply, like, or he didn't get to text her saying he was home, which is, so then he falls asleep, and the girl like comes barging into his apartment thinking like there was another girl there and he was sleeping, and then it causes problems, like the man thinking the girl's crazy when the girl was just, it was an unfounded fear. But then at the same time, the guy should have kept his word when he said he was going to text her when he got home so she didn't worry. You know what I mean? It's like both ways.
it's just
But
duality too, right? Like of kind of similar to what you're saying, like the idea of just like, oh my goodness, like because of we thinking about them a lot, like they get smothered.
they get smothered, yes. Gap of what's the point. And then I can close us in prayer.
Yeah, I think the point here really is that what is the will of God for you? I think that's the bottom line. If
Mm-hmm.
God's will is for you to be single for good, you better have to prepare for that. But if God, you feel, wants you to really be married, you just have to wait for that. And waiting requires patience, but waiting builds your strength.
Mm-hmm.
Waiting, he who waits upon the Lord shall you know his strength. So waiting holds you, prepares you. So I feel I mean, having talked to a lot of well, Janet, my sisters, your titas, Janet and Grace, they are not married. They are now aged like 56, uh, but they are very happy with their lives.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they are even thinking of feeling at all as incomplete. So I am convinced that they are singly blessed, meaning they have the gift of single blessedness because they're not sort of, they're happy with where they are. Sister Tess in the church, we have a lot of people who are not married and they're happily serving the Lord without any. Of course, I have one church church mate. Um, well, she thinks that no, I don't want. She's 50, I think. I said no, no, I don't want single residence. I really am looking for a husband. So I always tell her, well, maybe you have to go to the US because Filipinas are in demand
Hmm.
there.
But yeah, what do you think,
I think the point is, like Dad was saying, follow the will of God and just be faithful as you can in this time of singleness, and really like almost expose yourself and really ask hard questions. That way you don't see that like, oh, where that come from in marriage, right? You already know, or
yeah.
maybe even it's already non-existent when you're married because you've already worked on them. So just keep chipping away at those little things, and really in this singleness, you have the ability to like. There's no pressure of like, oh, freak, like opening up those like scary things, because it's hard to open those things up when you're married. More
Mm-hmm.
pressure,
Right,
right?
right.
So then open those up now, like everything that you've got as far as sins or this not offer up to God and work on it before you're married. That way, it's like you don't have to open that up when you're already
When
married
you're
because it's
married.
doubly hard. So
Yeah. No, I think that's good. I think this was a good discussion, but we can go ahead and close in prayer. Dear Lord, thank you so much for this time together that we can discuss how to approach singleness or singlehood. Thank you for giving us the time to talk about it and basically plan for those who are still single, plan how they should approach it, how they should avoid temptation, and to just consistently wait on you if it is your plan for them to have a partner, to just wait on you and to wait on the person that you have for them and just prepare them to be the person, the best person for their future wife or husband. Thank you for this time together. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
amen.